Donald Trump's own wife warning a mother to keep her 14-year-old daughter away from Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. That is what has been revealed in the latest Epstein drop, as Pam Bondi and Donald Trump and Todd Blanche scramble right now to prevent the Epstein files from coming out, to defy a deadline that was signed into law by Trump himself. We are getting new reporting and new evidence to confirm what we have already believed about Donald Trump's disgusting behavior around children. We do not need more evidence. We do not need more examples. We do not need more anecdotes or alleged photos. We can see it for ourselves. And Donald Trump's own wife said it. And that is what we are going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel and the work we are doing to call out this Epstein cover-up, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into this new reporting about Donald Trump's own wife and what she admitted about him and children, I want to start with a reporting that has gotten us there, and it came from the New York Times that Ari Melber broke down right here.
The point isn't which door they will open and when, but that they are already, in contrast to how Democrats sometimes sound, they're already planning for everything and planning for what would be the worst. If the president refuses to follow a law he just signed, they will go at everyone. And those different roads also matter, and we can discuss this more if it happens tomorrow, if they aren't turning over the required documents. But it matters because while the president is famously immune from later criminal sanction for official acts by the Supreme Court, his aides are not. People who work at the DOJ are not. Whether people are leaving, as I mentioned, related to this or other things, only time will tell. But if you stay and break the law while at the DOJ, it can end more than your career. It could end even your freedom. Then there's the new explosive report I mentioned from the Times, which probes Trump's relationship with Epstein, a, quote, best friend, and how they bonded over the pursuit of women. This new account draws on receipts and evidence from that era, just as Trump's birthday card for Epstein, which referenced secrets and women, was contemporaneous. It's credible evidence from at the time, which is part of why that birthday card story was a big deal. Trump's suing the Journal over that reporting, and they're pushing back and saying they expect to be vindicated in court. Well, I mentioned that evidence, which matters because today's new article has more evidence, like handwritten notes from all the way back to 1994 kept by Epstein's assistant, which the Times corroborated. The assistant noting at the time Trump was a regular presence in Epstein's life. Another employee noting the two talked at least 3 times a week in that period of their friendship of the mid and late 90s. That's a lot of contact. It adds to the questions about Trump's contradictions and secrecy about what he knew and when he knew it with all this information coming out.
I have continued to say, and y'all, if you watch the show, you know, what isn't in the Epstein files, what isn't under the purview of the DOJ or the FBI, what Trump and Bondi can't stop from coming out, to me might be more damaging than what they are trying to stop from coming out right now. There is so much evidence that is being uncovered. There are so many stories that haven't been told, and that is what we saw in this New York Times reporting. New evidence, more people feeling emboldened to speak out, to reveal stories of Trump and Epstein. And so that is why it makes sense, with all this information coming out, Pam Bondi and Donald Trump are trying to block the floodgates of the actual Epstein files. But Robert Garcia and Jamie Raskin are responding to them breaking the law, trying to bypass this deadline, and it's important to understand before we get into what Trump's own wife had to say about him. The Oversight Dems posted this joint statement from Robert Garcia and Jamie Raskin on Trump and his administration's decision to defy the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Donald Trump and the Department of Justice are now violating federal law as they continue covering up the facts and the evidence about Jeffrey Epstein's decades-long billion-dollar international sex trafficking ring for months. Pam Bondi has denied survivors the transparency and accountability they have demanded and deserve, and has defied the Oversight Oversight Committee subpoena. The Department of Justice is now making clear it intends to defy Congress itself, even as it gives star treatment to Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. Courts around the country have reportedly intervened when the administration has broken the law. We are now examining all legal options in the face of this violation of federal law. The survivors of this nightmare deserve justice. The co-conspirators must be held accountable, and the American people deserve complete transparency from the DOJ. Ro Khanna said it earlier today. If you are breaking the law, which Pam Bondi is right now, you will be held accountable. That is what is coming for Donald Trump, and it is because they know what is about to be released, and they know that it has already started to come out because Donald Trump's own wife admitted his disgusting behavior, and it was reported by the New York Times. Journalist Jasper Nathaniel, quote tweeting this piece from the New York Times, writes, Trump's wife to the mother of a 14-year-old model. Do not let her near my husband. During a trip to the bathroom, they ran into Mr. Trump's new wife, whom they had met earlier. Miss Maples clasped her hands, Miss Coleman recalled, and looked in the eye. Whatever you do, do not let her around any of these men, and especially my husband, she told Miss Coleman. Protect her. Donald Trump's second wife said to the mother of a beauty pageant contestant, do not let your daughter, who is 14 years old, around any of these men, including Donald Trump, the same circles that Jeffrey Epstein ran in, the same pageants he was financing, part of his operation, and said, do not let her around my husband. That is insane. This is so underreported, and it is shocking that this is information that we are seeing come out right now. If there is one thing that I expect to see in droves when it comes to these Epstein files, it is more evidence about Epstein's engagement with these beauty pageants, Donald Trump's connection to them. We know they spent a lot of time in his office, but how much time did they spend together at these pageants, at these places for Epstein to groom and find his next victim? It is disgusting, and it is disgusting that Donald Trump's own wife knew about it. Now, what does Melania know about it? Seriously. Why isn't she on the record? Why haven't we moved to get Melania on the record? What did she know about these pageants? What did she know about these shows? She was married to Donald Trump while he was still busting into these changing rooms, saying, oh, I can do whatever I want. I run the pageant. I run the show. I can go in and touch people as I please, assault them. Donald Trump's own wife said, do not let your 14-year-old around my husband and those other men. It was an entire operation. I find it so important to point out the fact that it was an operation because Kash Patel went before the Senate and he said to Adam Schiff, Jeffrey Epstein acted alone. It was just him. We found no other individuals involved in a trafficking operation. It was just Jeffrey Epstein. That's what they want you to believe. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison then, if it was just Epstein? Why? She did nothing wrong and she's in prison? How is this all a hoax if Ghislaine is in prison? Especially how is it all a hoax if they transferred her to a nicer one? So Ghislaine Maxwell deserves a cushier 5-star resort prison, but she's not innocent? Why would you move someone to a lower security prison if you're not acknowledging that they didn't commit a crime, or with the severity of their first sentencing? But also, at the same time, there's the implicature there that they did commit a crime, that they still should be incarcerated. Because if Donald Trump moved to get Ghislaine Maxwell a cushier setup, it means, well, she didn't commit as bad of a crime. She's still a criminal. So he's admitting that. But also, of course, pampering her to keep her quiet, or just saying the things that he wants. But let's go back to Melania. Let's get her on the record. Why not? What did she know? She threatened to sue Michael Wolff, anyone speaking out about her relationship with Epstein. Why isn't Melania on the record? Why don't we know more about what Melania saw, who she did and did not warn? She's implicated. Melania was just as much a part of this. It was a cabal. It was a cabal. Kash Patel says it's just Jeffrey Epstein. And why does he say that? Because of what I continue to reiterate about what is outside the purview of the Epstein files. Who is Donald Trump most worried about speaking out? Women like this. Women like Ms. Coleman, who said to the New York Times, this is what Donald Trump's wife told to me. Now that statement, that sentiment, it might be in the Epstein files, but it's stories like those. It is stories like those of people who will feel emboldened, who will feel an urgency to speak out. Because if Donald Trump will continue to deny these survivors their justice, then people with the rest of the puzzle pieces to put together will have to fill in the blanks. And that's what Donald Trump's really afraid of. He's really afraid of the people who were involved in the rest of this operation. Not just don't let him around Donald Trump, don't let him around those other men. Remember, it wasn't just my husband, it was everyone else involved in the criminality of these pageants that Donald Trump ran, that Donald Trump was stopping by. It's been covered extensively. So it's a cabal. He doesn't want those people on the record. He doesn't want them subpoenaed. Think about how many images, how many videos, how many emails, how many documents we've gotten from the Epstein estate. Now imagine if we could uncover every single associate. Imagine what subpoenas to them would get us. Information that might not even be in this Epstein file. I'm thinking bigger here, because it is bigger. If it was small, if it was a little scandal, if it was just a tiny little blip, they wouldn't have worked so hard to cover it up. But now I'm not just thinking about the associates. I'm thinking about the first Trump term. I'm thinking about 2019. I'm thinking about Epstein's death. I'm thinking about a camera and video that we haven't talked about for a while. I'm thinking about that prison cell. What are we going to learn about that? When is more information going to come out there? Is that what Donald Trump's trying to hide? What is it specifically that they are so afraid of? We know that they're blocking it. We know that Donald Trump was a predator, viewed as a predator by his own wife to children. Is that what he was trying to cover up in 2020? Because it seems like that's the case. It seems like there's so much we already know about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein that we didn't before, and yet they are still so scared of what could come out. If all we knew now was the only thing in the Epstein files, it would be very damaging. Let's be real. If everything that we've learned about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, if that was it, if that was the extent of their friendship, their relationship, their criminal engagement, that would be bad. That would be disqualifying of the presidency. That would be disqualifying of public office. That would be disqualifying of not being a pariah in society. But there's more. So what is it that they could be hiding? Because we know they were creeps together. We know they hung out. We know that he cut Ghislaine a deal. So what's the step up? Well, to Donald Trump's wife, it was how he acted towards children. That's what it was to Donald Trump's wife. How he acted towards children. Young girls. That's all that's left. It seems like that and the mysterious cause of Epstein's death is all that's left. Why was Steve Bannon leaving the White House to go help Jeffrey Epstein with his PR right before he died? Questions to consider. We're going to keep calling it out on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. We are going to be ready at midnight when this deadline passes, when Donald Trump breaks the law. So make sure you hit those notifications as well. Keep on fighting. Don't let him silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.